More than ever before, we are getting calls about anxiety and anxiety disorders. First, I think we need to do a little bit better job of deciphering between healthy anxiety that can be motivating and lead to growth, and that anxiety that leads to a lack of functioning in important areas of our lives. We need to know when to own it and feel it, and when it's time to ask for help. Many of the clients that come in will say that their last therapist taught them to breathe, taught them to read a book when they feel anxious, or listen to music or journal. And these things are great, but what I'm seeing is that people want more. They are not getting rid of that anxiety that leads to a lack of functioning by simply listening to music when they start to feel it. I recently had a client who told me that their last therapist talked so much about breathing that they began to have anxiety about breathing. The fact is, we're living in a new world with new anxieties. We have more anxiety that is dysfunctional and is diagnosable than ever before. The truth is, we still have some figuring out to do in terms of how to treat and how to make these anxieties and these anxiety disorders better.
As a whole, I think that our young men are, there's so much pressure academically, there's a lot of pressure athletically, socially, spiritually. There's just a lot going on with these guys, and they're exposed to so much so quickly. Usually when guys get together, man, we have a lot of fun together. They're real reserved, and we've been talking about it as a football staff, like, gotta pull these guys out, and it's almost like they're really, for whatever reason, they're holding back a little bit, and I'm trying to get them to, I call it a football voice, use their football voice, come on, you get to be loud, you get to scream and yell out here. It's like, let's go, so we'll see. We're working at it. I don't know why we are where we are, but I just know I love these guys and want to help them, and I'll do anything I can. I just need the tools to understand that stuff. People are talking about it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a conversation that's going on in our world right now. I know we all want to make a difference, and maybe having the tools and understanding of how to make a difference is really where, we're kind of struggling a little bit.
Admitting as adults that we don't have the answers, but modeling that it's okay to talk about it is a big part of dealing with the angst of the world, dealing with whatever the heck is going on. I liked you said use your football voice. And maybe that's a tool for a lot of people who struggle with the angst of the world and anxieties and the lack of socialization, right? It's hard to talk to people right now. It's hard to talk to your peers. Tell me about the football voice. Just tell me what that means.
In anything, to be successful, you have to communicate with others, especially in team sports. And so I'm trying to get these guys to communicate. And so you can't be quiet. You got to be loud. There's a lot of people, and it's trying to get them to, raise their voice and use it with each other, not in a negative way, in a way just to communicate in a situation where there's a lot going on.
I like that. And we were kind of talking about how much is going on, whether it be tragedies that people are experiencing, or the stress of football, the stress of tests, the stress of finals. And so that's kind of like chaos on the football field. And I love that imagery. Use your football voice. Even if you're not a football player, you have to find a way to communicate above the riffraff. And your voice, sometimes people don't recognize that, your voice needs to be heard. And so sometimes you got to take the responsibility to, quote, use your football voice and be heard.
What I see when it comes with anxiety right now is that it's across the board. It isn't just the student, there's the family, there's the teachers, there's extended support systems that have been taxed for a long time. And I think we all need to take pause and learn from what's just happened and find ourselves right where we are and say that's okay. I don't like the comment that there's like a lag in learning or that there's gaps anywhere. There isn't. We've gone through this experience and we've gone through it together, and we have tools and support systems if we want to work together and be okay with where we are. I think that's the number one thing I try to tell the students. Let's start with where we are to manage the anxiety.
I like the idea that managing anxiety is not done alone.
Yeah.
We're addressing it together.
I think the other thing is that it's going to come in different forms for every student, every person.
How do you know that it's reached a point that it's time to kind of ask for additional help, or well, I'll say it, professional help?
I think when I see a student that is just not managing the day-to-day routines, the day-to-day things that come so easily in general, struggling to get up, struggling to find any sort of purpose in what they're doing on a daily basis, maybe also kind of feeling defeated, that there's no way to improve the situation.
It's almost like half of us are sitting with anxiety that we don't understand and have never felt before. Any thoughts on that?
I think a lot of us are sitting with stuff that we don't understand or feel because of this post-COVID environment right now and the things that have been affected in our daily life. And I think we're trying so hard to do our daily life that it shocks us at times when we have a response, or we get anxious, or we don't know why we're behaving this way, or why isn't this going away? Normally I'll manage this better. And that's all the residual of that we've all gone through some trauma through this. And depending on how we held it together is probably going to depend on how it unravels so that we can process it as we move forward.
In this new world of anxiety disorders, let's start with 7 things. First, let's start with remember that you are not alone. And if you notice that somebody else is struggling, see if you can find the courage to make sure that they know that they are not alone. 2, let's take some more time to separate out anxiety that is really uncomfortable and maybe even feels terrible, but is good and can lead to motivation and growth, from that anxiety that leads to a lack of functioning. Being uncomfortable and avoiding difficult situations is much different than absolutely not being able to get yourself to function. Number 3, I love that. Let's use our football voice. Let's communicate more. Let's keep the conversations going. Don't stay quiet. Don't keep it a secret. Yeah, you've got to make sure that you are talking and communicating with safe people who are not going to use it against you or make fun of you, but let's talk more. Let's get above that chaos and be heard. Number 4, let's put an effort into finding concrete ways to explain what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're thinking, instead of that ambiguous thinking that kind of leads down rabbit holes and leads to more confusion. It's really important sometimes to keep it simple. Number 5, look for patterns in the anxiety. Along with that is looking for maybe possible triggers. It might be people, places, things. You may or may not be able to avoid these things, but it's important that we know what our triggers are, and it's important that we know what the patterns look like in our anxiety. Is it early in the day, late in the day? Does it have to do with what we eat, what we've done the night before? So again, look for the patterns and the triggers. Number 6, we can all get more open and honest about some of our unhealthy behaviors that might be creating or just perpetuating the anxieties that we feel. Number 7, we need to take a look at what we control and what we don't control. When we put a lot of time, effort, and energy into the things that we don't control, our anxiety goes up. We have to let go of and just accept the things that we don't control. When we take a look at the things that we do control, anxiety levels go down. Some of the things that we control are our healthy habit routines. We control the food that we eat, the exercise that we do, when we go to sleep, what we put in our bodies, how we use our bodies. And so taking a look at what we control and what we don't gives us a better idea of where to start. This is not the end-all be-all to helping you with your anxiety disorders or your life anxieties, but I hope it's a good start. Let's keep the conversation going and let's tackle these issues together.